essentially from California Institute of Mental Health, who had
You're talking about
scanned the
EDPs now.
literature.
Yeah.
Yeah, just
Yeah,
the
no,
EDPs.
that's fine.
And with the integrated agency, it was determined that child welfare would implement that Incredible Years piece. That's
Okay.
how we
That
got
was the
there.
first one.
Yeah, that was kind of the
Okay, because what I'm trying to get at here, just to shorten this part up a little bit, but I was trying to see, is there something, do you have like the county initiatives committee?
Strategic
No.
plan.
You have a strategic
And
plan?
the most recent strategic plan has been worked on by the leadership team, which is
Okay.
deputies and branch directors and assistant directors and the director of the department. Earlier iterations of that I don't think were quite so widely worked on. Although they did have some input.
But
And
no-
the strategic plan is a recent product? I mean, this is something that,
We've had one through the whole integration process. Every 3 years or so we update the strategic
okay,
plan.
3-year updates.
And with regards to the evidence-based practices, we actually have a process in place if you wanted to identify an
Mhm.
EVP, and then there's this sort of vetting process that it goes through in order to be decided whether we're going to go for it or we're not.
Yeah.
We just had 3 approved yesterday to move forward.
And so it's this process though that we're curious about.
The
So,
vetting process.
so what, I mean, somehow candidate programs have to be nominated or brought to somebody's attention. Somebody's attention who's now been secured.
There's a program leadership team
Mhm.
that is comprised of, like Shelley said, deputy directors of branches and branch directors and
Two assistant
the
directors.
two assistant directors
And
of
the
the
big
department,
The-
and
the-
the director.
Yeah.
And
We have-
so people do the work that's required about the evidence-based practice.
Right.
Take it to PLT, Program Leadership Team. It gets discussed and approved there.
Right,
Okay.
and then we go through an implementation.
We do
I
data
think-
review all the time, so need is usually identified through review of data or through like anecdotal obvious gaps in what we've got going, and then you go back and look at the data, what does the data really say about that? So you kind of recognize in advance what those needs are, and part of the way that we identify practices, either we set out to find them, or we'll see them in conferences, they keep popping up on the radar screen in different places, we start to look into them a little more in depth.
And the we there again is,
It's kind of switched. We used to have research and evaluation unit do the literature reviews and then say, here program, here's what we found. And it's kind of switched. Now we actually have program staff saying, I keep hearing about this. I keep hearing about this. We should check this out.
and you
So-
report that to,
Yeah, to up the chain.
just
Yeah.
up the chain, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, but I think the other
Let's
key,
do that.
the other key piece is it is driven by need. I mean,
Yes.
we just don't see something floating over there and say, oh, let's do it.
Yep.
It's, okay, I heard this, I'm seeing this need here, maybe this is one, and a good example, one of the EVPs that was approved by PLT yesterday is a program transformation we have a 6-bed shelter.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been a struggle, quite honestly.
Tough
And
to run.
it's a program specifically for that shelter, so we can move youth and children through. It's a program that we believe can be carried then on into foster placement or relative
Right.
placement wherever the child
Right.
goes. So it's kind of that we have a need,
Okay,
we see this, then we put the two together.
okay.
Rather than,
And the we putting it together though is part of this program leadership team. This is where the need is bubbled up
Right.
through the system, and the potential solutions are there, and then you're looking to match these kinds of things up. Now, in that discussion, how's it going so far, by the way? Because here I am interrupting you, cutting you guys off, kind of getting it to the next thing. Is this still okay?
yep, yeah.
All right? Because it's the only way we're going to get to the end of this. So are there criteria? I mean, need sounds like one of the things that you've already identified. I mean, does this satisfy? Does this help us satisfy a need? If we were to do this as intended, would this get us through the shelter part of it, or would this help us with the early intervention part of it? Are there other criteria that would be in that vetting process?
What we did this time around was at least 2 of the new practices that we're looking at. We've actually, well, and not just the 2 new ones, but you have to make sure that the practice fits with your agency's core values, like integration. If it's isolating into a specific like medical model or something like that, that's probably not going to fit with our core values. Let's see what else is out there. We've also, in the last couple, brought in different stakeholders to help in identifying practices, and we'll review, we'll kind of narrow down which ones look like they're going to meet the need and have outcomes associated with them that are addressing our needs. But then we'll bring the stakeholders in and review models side by side.
And stakeholders being like parents or kids or?
Transition age youth for a couple of the models that we're looking at, and staff from the programs that are going to have to implement those models and live
We have
with
some
it.
holes in our stakeholder group.
Yes,
Yeah.
Well, no, this is so good. I mean, in fact, you have them at all. This is a positive thing. So, but so it's agency people as well as though potential recipients of the service and the stakeholder. Okay, great.
And then we review them side by side, and that's the group then that puts forth the recommendation to the program leadership team. PLT has already said, go forth and find a model.
Yeah.
So now we're coming back and saying, this is the one that we're recommending, this is the one we're studying for.
All right. That is fantastic. So here you have the things that you are attempting to do, and you have a vetting process. So this vetting process is something that is a critical part of implementation. So, and we've reached the end of this because now I'm providing you a little summary statement, so I'm not going to try to lead the discussion. But having some way, though, of saying, out of the hundreds of possibilities, why this one? Why these four? Why are we choosing this over that? But this vetting process is something that is not common. And so to have a process for, this is how things get brought to our attention. This is how then people kind of do some research to find out more about it. This is how we then have a committee structure of loosely, tightly constructed to say, this is what we're going to do. So here in your county, this is a very good thing. So congratulations. So we admire what you have just described. So now let's move to the next thing. So now we, of our four, let's pick one or two that are pretty broadly, I mean, your intention is to have this be done across the entire county. Foster care, behavioral health expansion, differential response, permanency for youth, prevention. Which ones of these would you like to see in all of the operating units? And when I say all, I don't literally mean each and every, because not all of them would be appropriate.
I'll speak for me, permanency and prevention.
Perm-
I think the two Ps are probably where we're at.
In a pod.
Yeah.
2 peas in a pod.
2 peas in a pod.
Okay.
And
I come from
understanding-
Kansas, so
You can't. Understanding that prevention is a form of permanency.
All right. And so the permanency, so prevention is the Incredible Years, and the permanency is the Permanency for Youth project.
Differential response would be prevention as well.
Yeah.
Oh, and differential response would be prevention. More than Incredible Years. Okay,
Yeah.
so differential response. And then, how did I do on the second one? Permanency for
Yes.
Youth project. Okay. I got 1 out of 2. Well, I'm
never
sometimes
know.
fooled by these names. Permanency, okay, for youth. Okay, so now you've gone through the vetting process. The people on high have said, yes, let's do this. What happens next? I mean, how do you then start saying to, how do you roll this out within the county? Everybody goes to training. You start over here with this one place because they are already doing something like that. How do you prepare people to do these new ways of work that around prevention and permanency?
I was going to say, it probably depends on what it is.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, let's take differential response.
Well, before we provide training, there's some steps in between the
Okay.
vetting process and the approval process at program leadership team and
Okay.
actually sending people to training. And that is policy development, policies and procedures, and
Implementation planning.
implementation planning.